So there's one last thing that we need to know about working with fractions, and that is how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide when we have mixed numbers. So the thing is, when you are multiplying and dividing and you have mixed numbers, you must turn them into improper fractions. Now, when you're adding and subtracting, you don't have to turn them into improper fractions first, but I have found that that seems to work much better and easier for most students. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So basically, we're just going to think whenever we have mixed numbers, we need to turn them all into improper fractions, do whatever we need to do. And here's my rule of thumb. Whenever you have a problem that has mixed numbers in it, then make sure that your final answer is in mixed numbers, if possible. If you have a problem that starts and does not have any mixed numbers in it, then when you get your final answer, just leave it in fraction form, even if it is an improper fraction. Just make sure that everything is in lowest terms, completely reduced. So I'm just going to do several examples here to show you how this works. So here's our first example, 2 1/4 times 7 1/3. So I start by turning the 2 1/4 into an improper fraction. Remember, we multiply the 2 times the 4, which equals 8, and then I add the numerator, which is a 1, so that equals 9. So that becomes my new numerator. And if you remember from before in the introduction, the denominator always stays the same. And then multiply. Now I'm going to do the same thing with 7 1/3. So 7 times 3 is 21. And then I add the numerator, so that ends up being 22. So that is our new numerator, and 3 is our denominator because we always keep the original denominator. Now this is multiplying, so all I have to do is cross cancel anything I need to cross cancel. So 3 goes into itself once and into 9 3 times. 4 can't go into 22, but 2 can go into 4, and 2 can go into 22. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 22 divided by 2 is 11. Now I just need to multiply my numerator. So 3 times 11 is 33. And multiply my denominators. 2 times 1 is 2. And now I just need to put this back into mixed number form. Because it started in mixed number, I'm going to put it back into mixed number. So remember how we do that from the introduction I did for you. 2 goes into 33. So that's once. That leaves me 13. 2 goes into 13. Whoops. 2 times 6. That's 12. That leaves us with 1. And so 1. So our whole number is 16. 1 becomes the leftover, becomes our new numerator, and our denominator always stays the same. So this is our final answer, 16 1/2. Okay, let's do our second example. So 3 3/5 times 4 4/9. Okay, so again, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 is 18 fifths, because I always keep the denominator. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 4 is 40, and 9 is my denominator. So 5 goes into itself once and into 40 8 times. 9 goes into itself once and into 18 twice. Multiply up my numerators. 2 times 8 is 16. Multiply up my denominators. 1 times 1 is 1. And we never leave a 1 in the denominator for our final answer. Or you could think of this as turning it back into a mixed number, and in this case it's just a whole number. 16 divided by 1 is 16. Okay, let's do the next one. 3 3/8 divided by 2 4/7. Okay, so let's take the numerators. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27, and 8 is my denominator. Now let's take the denominator. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 4 is 18, and 7. Now, this is a fraction over a fraction being divided by a fraction. So remember, copy, dot, flip. So I'm going to copy the first one exactly like it is, dot, change it to multiply, and then flip my second one. So let's see, is there anything I can cross cancel? So let's look at 18. That's 1 and 18, neither of which can go, well, 1 can go into 27, but we never do the 1. And 2 and 9. 9 can go into 18 twice and into 27 3 times. So now I just multiply up my numerators. 3 times 7 is 21, and my denominators. 8 times 2 is 16, and now I need to turn this back into a mixed number. Well, 16 goes into 21 one time, and that leaves me 5, so that's my new numerator, and 16 is my denominator. That's my final answer. Okay. Next one. 8 divided by 5. Oops, I wanted to do it this way. 8 divided by 5 1/3. Well, guys, 8 is a whole number, but to turn it into a fraction, we just put it over 1. Okay? And then 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16, and 3 is my denominator. So now I'm going to do copy dot flip. So 8 over 1 times 3 over 16. 8 goes into itself once, into 16 twice. Okay. 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. Turn it back into a mixed number. 2 goes into 3 one time with 1 left over. That becomes my new numerator. And 2 is my original denominator. Which one was this? 4. Okay, so let's go on to 5. Okay. So this one is 5 1/3 minus 2 5/6. So first I'm going to turn it into improper fractions. So 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. And don't let big numbers freak you out. Just do the things you've been learning and you've been doing. You'll be just fine. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17, and 6 is my denominator. Now, I need to find my lowest common denominator. So this is my bigger number. So 6 times 1 is 6. Does 3 go into 6 evenly? It does, 2 times. So 6 is going to be my denominator. So remember, 16 times 3. And what do I need to multiply with 3 to get 6? Well, that's 2. If I do it in the denominator, I have to do it in the numerator as well. Okay? And then I write down 17/6. Well, what do I need to multiply with 6 to get 6? Nothing, really. Just 1. But we're going to say nothing. It's easier that way. So now I just need to 16 times 2 is 32. And that's over 6. This is 17/6. So now I know 6 is my denominator. Now, I just look at my numerator. This is an addition problem whose signs are different. So I subtract the small number from the big number. 12, that's 5. And I get 15. And then I take the sign of the big number? Well, that's the positive here, so I don't write that. Now I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, 3 can go into each of these. Before I turn it back into an improper or to a mixed number, I'm going to reduce it. So 3 goes into 6 twice and into 15 5 times. So what I really have is 5 halves. 2 goes into 5 twice with 1 left over. And there's our final answer. Be sure to reduce at this stage if you can. It will make getting your final answer easier. And you won't have to reduce then either. And let's do one more. So, 6th example. And we've got 3/4 plus 3 1/8. So I don't need to do anything with the 3/4, but I do need to turn the 3/8 into an improper fraction. So 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25 eighths, because that's my original. Now I need to get my LCD. So I take the 8. 8 times 1 is 8. Does 4 go into 8 evenly? It does. So 8 is my LCD. So I'm going to write down 3/4. And what do I need to multiply with 4 to get 8? Well, that's 2. If I do it in the denominator, I have to do it in the numerator. And now I'm going to write down the 25 eighths. What do I need to multiply with 8 to get 8? Well, nothing, really. Ones we don't really do. It doesn't matter. Now I know that I've got, well, let me go ahead and do it. I've got 6 eighths and 25 eighths. So now I know I've got 8 in the denominator. Now my numerator, it's an addition problem whose signs are the same. So I add the numbers and keep the sign, in this case 25. So 8 goes into 31. Darn, if it was 32, it'd be 4 times. So it's going to have to be 3. And that leaves me with 7 left over. That becomes my new numerator. And 8 is my denominator. And that's my final answer. Remember, if the problem starts with having a mixed number in it, then end it in a mixed number. If it starts with only having fractions in it, no mixed numbers, then make sure your answer stays in fraction form. Even if your improper fraction, you have an improper fraction, don't turn it back into a mixed number. But do remember, everything needs to be in lowest terms and reduced.